Hi, y'all. We tuned in for another episode of Baked Out Radio Show, Music, Talk, and Business. And on this particular episode, I have Wade Simmons, who's in, a multitude of industries. So, y'all know we bring everybody on here that's either have something to do with creatively being an artist or, the background of the music industry, but also business oriented as well. So, Wade, not only is he a filmmaker, he is in the mortuary transportation business, and he has trained to be a professional wrestler. So, what they say, there's a saying that I heard you say, the jack of all trades is a master of none. But most people don't finish it, and the rest of it is, but oftentimes better than a master of one, showing that not only that, you have versatility and that you can adapt and solve problems across many areas, making them very useful, even if they aren't at the absolute top of their expert field, because, limiting yourself to just one thing can become obsolete, especially in today's times. So, Wade, welcome to the platform.
Oh man, it's an honor to have you, man. An honor to have me, rather, and it's an honor to be on your platform. Because I know we've been speaking for a few weeks, but
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that I get a chance to be here. So I appreciate you, and this just the beginning of a friendship, my brother. So it's
Oh,
not
yeah,
like a
most
one
definitely.
and done thing.
Yeah, most definitely. And I get it. You know what I'm saying? You do a lot. And with, what I'm saying, your primary job, excuse me, I imagine is, the mortuary transportation services. We're dealing in that industry. And like you had told me, you had to go be on call and stuff. One, let's dive into the background of that a little bit. What got you into that particular field?
So I was actually interested in being a mortician as a
Hmm.
child. I went to a lot of funerals, going to church, and then growing up in
Hmm.
church and everything. I also had like a I don't want to say like an out of body experience when I was a child, but it was something along that line that like I remember saying like I saw angels fighting in the water and all that good stuff. But whatever it was enough to convince me that God is real
Hmm.
and that there is a life after death.
Yeah.
And so like after that, I just, went to a lot of funerals and I was curious. And I remember being on the west side of Chicago when I was in elementary school. There was a young man by the name of Terrence Matthew. He kept hearing me talking about embalming and stuff like that. He like, what you want to be a funeral director? And I'm like, you know what? That's
Hmm.
what I want to be.
Yeah.
So it was just in me since childhood, man. And so I started volunteering at a funeral home here in Chicago, my senior
Hmm.
year of high school. And
Okay.
once I started there, man, it just took off from there. Ups and
How,
downs, but
mhm.
it's pretty good career.
How was that a first like initial reach out to that funeral home in Chicago? Because you are a high school student who is clear on the path that they want to take, and you don't really get to meet a lot of people who are in high school who are clear with it. Hold on, what is this thing doing? There we go. Zoom is reminding me that we have a meeting.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Look,
but
last week
hmm
on my end, Zoom didn't. So, but hey, we here
Zoom
today,
be
right?
doing,
So,
what I'm saying, what they want to do sometimes. But
but
you don't get to meet that many people who like when I went, and I'll give you an example. When I was in college as a freshman, I went from because I was in the state of Tennessee, originally from Nashville, and I went to Fort Valley, which is a smaller school. It's like 2 hours south of Atlanta, HBCU. But I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to do business with a concentration in marketing. So my first day on campus, when I'm registering and having freshman orientation week, I told my advisor at the time, this is what I want to do. They was like, hey, you don't have to pick right now. You could just, take classes or whatever and then decide later on. I was like, no, I know what I want to do. You don't get to meet that many people who's that astute at a very young age. How was it on their end receiving you, like as a senior in high school? Was like, hey, I want to come and intern.
well, I had to thank God for a woman by the name of Diana Anderson, who was my teacher
Mm-hmm.
at Bloom Township High School.
Mm-hmm.
She was on us. She taught us everything we knew. And when I told her that I wanted to be a funeral director, she actually called the funeral home owner, like, look, I got a young man here. He wants to be a funeral director. So the owner
Mm-hmm.
said, look, tell him get a gold tie, get a white shirt, come in a
Mm-hmm.
black suit, and we'll start him. And so it all stemmed from my teacher, Miss Anderson,
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to the funeral home. And so that's how that started. It's like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's funny because like Miss Anderson is one of those people that she knows somebody in everything. Like, I mean, from
Mm-hmm.
actors to probably lawyers to doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Anderson knows some of everybody, so she's well plugged.
Yeah, well, again, that goes back to the jack of all trades. You know so many people in so many different industries that you can actually help. I've actually experienced that because of podcasting. I get to meet so many different people in so many different areas where people hit me up like, "Hey, do you know this person? Do you not?" I'm like, you know what? I do know somebody that can handle mortuary services, or I do know, you know what I'm saying, a plumber, or I do know a doctor, and I do know a person who's a black tech founder, and can write code and all that stuff. So it's very interesting how industries will shape a person. So you're doing that, you didn't have any type of hesitation of like being around, you know what I'm saying, the deceased, and just because most people look at a real morbid type of way.
Not at all. Like when I got into it, I jumped right in, and most of the people that know me from the funeral material that I was there,
Hmm.
man, I spent a lot of weekends because that's the thing when you're in the funeral business, right?
Hmm.
You have to understand that while most times as a young person, well, probably not nowadays because everybody trying to do what they got to do nowadays, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But, at the time, right, because I was still in high school, but
Hmm.
a lot of times on Saturdays, that's where I would be at the
Hmm.
funeral home. And I would probably be there on Saturdays from 8 in the morning, maybe to like, 6 or 7 in the evening. And then once I
Hmm.
got out of high school, I stuck with it, jumped right into college,
Hmm.
had some ups and downs, but it was cool. I never lost like sight of what I wanted because like when I was choosing college, like I didn't choose college based off like, sports or anything like that, even though I was an athlete in high school, but
Hmm.
I'm like, look, I want to be a mortician. So I ended up
Hmm.
going to Malcolm X College. They actually have a mortuary program, but I was determined to go to the school called Worsham.
Hmm.
So I ended up, going to Malcolm X, and then I went to Malcolm X. I went to Wilbur Wright and went to
Hmm.
South Suburban for like one semester and went right to mortuary college. And it was
Hmm.
rough, man. Oh man, that was one of the hardest schools I ever went to, man.
Well, yeah, you're dealing with anatomy in the body, and then the body expiring. So all the laws and regulations that you have to do that people don't even probably realize, things that cannot take place. You know what I'm saying, because of the event of everything that's what's happening and all the studying you have to do.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's
mhm.
very intense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've met a couple of people who actually went to mortuary school, or however you want to, I guess the correct pronunciation of it. Um, and yeah, they were telling me that it's very intense, and I was like, it's like, what I'm saying, being in I would equivalent it as, the medical side, and that's the flip side of it.
Absolutely, yeah, man. It was very intense, man. I mean, because when I went, I ended up having to start over. I'm like, oh, I got,
Hmm.
oh man, when I'm gonna get out this place? But by the grace of God, I got through it, man. It was rough. I'll tell anybody it was
Hmm.
rough. Maybe some people had a breeze, but not this
Hmm.
brother.
Yeah. So at what point you're doing that? So then your passion for filmmaking and also, I guess, wrestling stems from being a former athlete. When did you want to start pursuing those as well?
So as far as wrestling, now this is interesting. In the back of my mind, now this is before
Hmm.
I went to mortuary school, and I
Hmm.
never got a chance to share this part. So I appreciate you for asking. But kind of like in the back of my mind, I was like, you know what? I kind of would have wished I went to a college that had like a wrestling team. And this is
Hmm.
before going to mortuary school. So like when I went to Wilbur Wright,
Hmm.
I started like thinking about wrestling a lot more, but I kept it on the back burner as far as the wrestling thing. But what
Hmm.
ended up happening with film was while I was in mortuary school, I actually wrote a script in the back of the classroom.
Hmm.
I was in anatomy class and I just thought
Hmm.
about like this idea to write this script and I wrote the script. And if I'm not mistaken,
Hmm.
I ended up giving it because I needed extra credit in mortuary school. So I remember giving it to my teacher. I don't know what happened to the script after that, but I turned it in for extra credit. And so
Uh-huh.
like so prior to so after mortuary college, right, we had to take these exit exams. I call it the exit career exam because
Hmm.
man, I'm telling you, that exam, that's just what it'll make you want to do. It's like, forget all this, I'm doing something else. But we had to take these exams before you can even take your national board. So
Hmm.
I spent like 7 months after completing mortuary school trying to pass the arts section, which is the funeral director part.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't passing. So I'm like, you know what? If I don't pass this test, I better figure something out. So I'm like, I thought about plumbing because my family's in the plumbing business. So I went out to
Mm-hmm.
Vegas, worked with my uncle. I'm like, you know what? Love my uncle. I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad my grandfather Hubert was a master plumber, but you know what? That's my family thing. It's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily my thing. So
Yeah.
so while I was out in Vegas, I just started thinking about film school. So when I came back home, I'm like, you know what? And I remember praying, talking to God, like, you know what? Maybe like, you know what, I'm gonna go to school for one more thing. And so if I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna do something that I like. And so I chose film school. Right when I went to film school, right, this is the crazy part. Why
Mm-hmm.
people told me, why would you do that? And you ain't even finished your exit exam for the mortuary. Right when I went to film school, I passed the funeral director part of the test. And the crazy thing about it was, so after that, I finished film school, right? I
Mm-hmm.
had this dream like this young lady had me on her podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and she reached out to me and she like, hey Wade, there's a young man, he's online and he's praising God and he's singing worship music, and she like tune in, and I remember him singing that song, I'm chasing after you. So this is a Wednesday night, I
Mm-hmm.
tune in, I go to sleep, I hear that song, I'm chasing after you, in my mind I have a dream that I passed the science part of the test. So I woke up, I prayed like, you know what, God, today I'm gonna trust you. I called the school, like I'm coming out there to take the test. Go
Mm-hmm.
out there, take the test. I take a little break. I go in the bathroom and I pray, like, look, God,
Mm-hmm.
please help me out. Like, look, today not on me, it's on you. And when she said, congratulations, one Wade, you passed.
Mm-hmm.
I like, you mean I ain't got to come out here and see y'all no more? Cause this is like, cause this is like, cause I graduated film school in
Mm-hmm.
2020. So this is like
Yeah.
maybe like 2021
Mm-hmm.
after graduating mortuary school in 2018 that because I passed the funeral director part in
Mm-hmm.
18, but it was 7 months, after going to film school. And then after I graduate film
Mm-hmm.
school, God gave me a dream. I passed the test and I go out there and take it and I passed it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just crazy how all of that worked out, man. It's
Yeah.
just it's mind blowing.
I love that. So I saw a couple podcasts that you were on, and I was looking at the interviews. And you brought this up, when did you get to the point to where you started trusting your gut?
uh Man, you know what? I seen God do a lot of things in my life, like I
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of times questions like when people be like, man, how you know God is real? And I tell people, it ain't just what I read in the scriptures, it's what I
Mm-hmm.
experienced in my own personal life, and people can
Mm-hmm.
call it fate or whatever. That's their right. But me, I choose to believe that there is a God and that we have a divine direction and destiny. And so to me, it's like every time, I go the way that I feel God has led me, it always worked out, even when other people didn't understand it. And
Mm-hmm.
so it might sound crazy and nuts, but I mean, hey, what the Bible say that without faith it's impossible to please God.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know sometimes the preachers quote that when they want that money, but but that's another story they ain't gonna even get into. But but truth be told, it's more than money. It's a lifestyle, man. And
500 million people listen to podcasts worldwide. That's a huge audience to tap into. Don't waste your time just starting. Use your time wisely by starting correctly. Hi, I'm Andreas, and I built Bank That Radio Show from 0 to 11,000 followers. And if you're trying to start a podcast, I wrote an ebook about it. Clear, concise. You don't have to have the biggest audience. You don't even have to have an audience at all and still monetize your podcast. Remember, everyone has a story. If you've been on the internet searching, there's a lot of information out there how to start your podcast and it can seem overwhelming. I believe in the KISS model. Keep it simple, stupid. Short, concise, straight to the point, all in the ebook. You can change your life in a week. Start your podcast, launch it, and monetize it. All within a week. You can go to the pay link, check out the book. You can also subscribe to the newsletter. Get more advanced techniques and lessons. You can change your life in a week.
to me, I just seen God do a lot of amazing things for me. So man, it's like that's I just and it's the same thing with pro wrestling to the question you asked that right
Mm-hmm.
after film school, I ended up wanting to make a documentary about pro wrestling because like a lot of people like everybody want to be a filmmaker and this and that. And that's true. I think I think all of us are artists because if we look at God, I
Mm-hmm.
believe God is the first artist. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
look at the monkeys, lions, gorillas, and
Mm-hmm.
hyenas and wild dogs, that everything has a unique design, even trees, grass, and
Mm-hmm.
things we don't pay attention to. Everything is so detailed.
Yeah.
And so I choose to believe that that's God's creation. And so I think that every person in humanity has a creative side.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I want to be a filmmaker, but I started like having more of a passion for making documentaries. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make a documentary about pro wrestling. And so I reached out to Steve Boz.
Mm-hmm.
And after me and Boz, we were talking for maybe a couple of months,
Mm-hmm.
and I just never was able to really get out to the training center because I was always at the funeral home on the weekend. So I said, I'm gonna get there. I'm coming to one of the shows. And so I finally got a chance to
Mm-hmm.
go to the wrestling school. And when I went to CSW,
Mm-hmm.
Boz introduced me to like Sky Blue, who's in AEW, Axel
Mm-hmm.
Rico, and
Mm-hmm.
then myself, my friend Jalen.
Mm-hmm.
There was a young lady by the name of Bombshell Shelley who's killing the wrestling scene right now, traveling
Mm-hmm.
the world doing the thing. I'm proud of her. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, we were introduced to all these people. And so I'm like, Boz, I want to make this documentary. He says, when you gonna start training? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? I start next week. So
Yeah.
that ended up to us training for wrestling for 2 years, man. And
Mm.
it was amazing. Like I said, I couldn't devote as much time to it because I was always working. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I wasn't looking to like try to go to like WWE or TNA and nothing like that. I did it because it was what I wanted to do. I did it as a hobby.
Yeah.
And I think that it's okay because sometimes a lot of people might feel like when you do something like, man, they feel like you gotta
Mm-hmm.
be so ambitious that you want to go here and there. But there are some people in the world that just do things because that's what they want to do. It's not
Yeah.
about building up a fan base. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
it's your life. You got to make the most of it.
Exactly. And like people forget that there are hobbies in the world and that's what they're there for to help with our creative side and to, give that other side of fulfillment. So you mentioned all these different things that you've been in. What is your perspective on success? What does success mean to you?
So to me, I borrowed this quote from my good friend John from professional wrestling
Mm-hmm.
that success is more of a journey than it is a destination.
I like that.
Because a lot of people, they just look at the destination like, oh man, you're gonna get to the bag, you're gonna get to the money. But what a lot of people don't realize is that with success, whether you have money or don't have money, everybody gonna have one thing in life, and that's problems.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, success is more than just what you have. I think success is joy. It's
Mm-hmm.
when you can wake up every day and say, man, you know what? I'm doing what I love. I might be having a rough time right now, but by the grace of God, I get through it. And don't get me wrong, like of course we live in this world. We do need money to make a living and things that nature, but everything needs to be balanced because you got sometimes some people when you start making so much money, you
Mm-hmm.
ain't got time to live and do that. So it's like to me,
Mm-hmm.
success. It's nice to have the money as well, but to me, success is just enjoying the journey and not so much thinking that getting to some destination is just gonna like because no, every new peak in life comes with a different set of challenges. So
Mm-hmm.
success is just being able to wake up every day and say, you know what, man, I'm doing what I love doing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy with what I'm doing. I got joy. I got peace.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe everything is not exactly where I want it to be just yet, but even still then, it just comes with the territory of life. So to me, success is more about just being present, being in the moment and just experiencing joy.
Yeah, man, you definitely have like very, very similar definitions of the word success. That's how I explain it to people as well. Like you get to wake up and do what you want to do every single day when statistically people don't get to do that. And that's because of the
Man, I
way that they
love
look
it.
at it. Like you said, they're
I
looking at it more for a destination type of situation. So you've been going on podcasts and things of that nature. What do you get out of being a podcast guest?
connections. I love talking to people. Like one thing about me, a lot of people don't know is that I also wanted to be a counselor. I don't know why, but I wanted to be a counselor. Like I thought
Uh-huh.
about taking that up as well, but I'm like, you know what, I ain't doing no more schooling at this point. Look like at
Yeah.
that unless I have to, but
Hmm.
God is good. But no, but actually I love connecting with people. And to me, it's like I feel like everybody has a story. And
Mm-hmm.
even like what we're doing now, right? Like, it's a blessing for me to be guesting on your podcast,
Mm-hmm.
sharing my story with you, but also getting to know you. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm one of the people that like I don't just look at what I get out of anything. If
Mm-hmm.
I don't get anything else out of anything, it's another connection. It's another
Mm-hmm.
impact. It could be potentially another friendship. So to me,
Mm-hmm.
everybody has a story because that's just like I'm sitting before you right now, but
Mm-hmm.
who knows what God is going to take you in life. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
mess around and might end up having one of the biggest podcasts in the world. And I can say, man, I was on my brother podcast.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not about just me sharing my story, but it's
Mm-hmm.
about connecting with people because me and my friend Eugene was just talking about this. But I think a lot of times we have got to like the point where like a lot of people just look at it like, well, you know, I'm gonna wait till I, get
Mm-hmm.
big or get this or get that or whatever. But the truth is, all those things that you think you gotta wait to do, you should be doing those things now. And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean is like, because to be honest with you, like I don't have a desire to be famous or nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my intent. My
Yeah.
intent is just to let my story be heard and to make connections with people. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes people misunderstand that because a lot of times when people find out that you're a filmmaker,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times people in the entertainment industry, I feel like they get attacked more because your job is to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth be told, any entrepreneur business person, your job, even if you're not being seen, your goal is to get your brand or your business in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
Long as it's in a legit way and you ain't got to do none of that funny stuff, you know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? But we
Yeah.
don't get down like that. But it's just one of those things to where like I think that people get attacked. But the truth be told, you have to promote. Um,
Yeah.
that's that just comes with the nature of the territory. Now we don't have to like, you know, be so obsessed with it. But if you don't take the time to share your story,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't, like I said, you never know how your story can help somebody. Because I've talked to journalists and different
Mm-hmm.
podcasters, and I've even heard a podcast. I mean, a journalist say to me one time, like, what he say, like, like I don't know about. He said, I want to do a story on you, but I want to include the funeral home because I just don't think this story is that significant. But it's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard that before, and
Mm-hmm.
years later they came back and said, man, I should have took that story. I should have because
Mm-hmm.
my whole thing is that everybody is somebody. Everybody has a story, but the thing is that
Mm-hmm.
you have to give it to the people that want it. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of times people try to push it on people that don't want it. No,
Mm-hmm.
it's an audience that would love to have you. Like again, my desire is not to necessarily be, some big celebrity or nothing like that. I just love talking to people and connecting with people. But I also love sharing my story with people because that's important. Because like I said, look, if you start a business, you have to promote it. How because we can't just take for granted that just because we're doing something that people gonna be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go there. Like, no, you
Mm-hmm.
have to say things to people like, because we live in this world where I think that people often assume that just because you do a lot of amazing things that somebody is just gonna notice it. And no, it's
Mm-hmm.
billions and millions of people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta let the people know, hey, like the song Beyonce made, you gotta let them know I was here. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? I ain't the
Yeah.
greatest person in the world, but I was here.
Yeah, we definitely have very similar philosophies on that because, like you said, I started podcasting because I wanted to build a platform for independent artists when I was working with them exclusively because I always valued their talent. And I felt like major recording artists always had resources dumped into them to where they could help build their audience regardless of what level of a major recording artist they were, whether they were like A level, B level, C, or whatever. So as building that, I realized what my purpose was to share the stories of others. And that
Yeah.
in its turn has afforded me the opportunity to do a lot of other different things. Never looking for the fame, but realizing, like you said, everyone has a story, no matter what people might think of that story. And like you had used the example of the journalist, and I understand from a journalistic standpoint that, some stories are bigger than others because of what you want to do with that story. But the essence of people's story and talking to a lot of different entrepreneurs, being an entrepreneur myself, and understanding the roles that we play in society and when we have a vision for something and how we have to push, like you said, with promoting the way that is looked upon. That's why I like talking to a lot of different entrepreneurs. One, I can relate and I definitely understand. Two, the way that entrepreneurship is positioned in society now, years ago, I would say about 15 years ago, people used to look at it like, ooh, entrepreneur, what's that? Ugh. Now everybody wants to be a boss, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. But they don't understand the other side of that coin is the responsibility that you have when you're doing a multitude of positions that normally under a company that is well funded would have different people doing those roles. You
Yeah,
have to do all the roles. You have to be your own
absolutely.
administrative person. You have to be, your own promoter. You have to be your own salesperson. A lot of people I've been seeing on like threads and stuff complaining about sales. I was like, man, I didn't know that how important sales and marketing are to a business. Yeah, they're very crucial
Absolutely.
because without them, you don't have a business.
Let me tell you, you know who the one person that I learned from is Snoop Dogg.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I was looking at like, man, you know what? Snoop Dogg is one of the biggest artists in the world, but
Mm-hmm.
yet he still shows up on young people platforms,
Mm-hmm.
old people platform. But what I like
Mm-hmm.
about Snoop is that like he actually brands himself very well, and I love it. He was one of my favorite artists as a child. Like Snoop. I always tell people that
Mm-hmm.
when it came to the music industry, like Snoop Dogg was one of my favorite. And a lot of people, you know, like who know me, they might be a little surprised by that. But the truth is, like, no, Snoop Dogg makes all type of music.
He does.
And he has a lot of he has like because like me, I wasn't into the street life,
Mm-hmm.
but he has some other music that I actually like. Like he has a song called The Good Good. He
Mm-hmm.
has another song called I think it's like Coming Back or whatever. But I like
Mm-hmm.
that song where he say take a chance on yourself like I did on me. You know what I'm saying? Like I like
Mm-hmm.
because like it's all type. He got some gospel music and stuff, but like to me,
Mm-hmm.
I just cause like me, I love all type of music. Like one of my favorite songs is "People Make the World Go Round," man. And I
Mm-hmm.
know you know that one. That's an old one,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like
Mm-hmm.
I love people because to me, if I love God, how can I say I love God and I don't love people who are made in His image? To
Exactly.
me, that's something that's a whole kind of different subject right now. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but a part of it is like I don't care what I do, whether I'm filmmaking, funeral service, or whatever I do. That
Mm-hmm.
it means nothing if I don't have compassion and love for other people in my heart. So, to me that's one thing that I value over anything is that my faith in God and that,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta love people, man. And you may not always agree with people, but
Mm-hmm.
it's important to have love in the heart. Like the world not a bad place. It's sometimes we make bad decisions, but the world not
Mm-hmm.
a bad place. It's the things we do. But to your point about the journalist, why I thought it was so important to get my story out because working in the funeral business, you see a lot of young people get killed,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of young people lose their life. And I don't know if you ever seen the movie The Bronx Tale, but
Mm-hmm.
there was a message in that movie that said that the saddest thing in life was wasted talent.
Yeah.
And so I noticed that when it came to the news, right, we always hear people's story, unfortunately, if they don't have a big budget and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stuff dumped and funding dumped into them, only time you really hear people's story is tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about somebody's story when they got mugged or robbed, but a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
these are people that can sing, that can write, that can direct, that can act, that
Mm-hmm.
can do poetry, that can
Mm-hmm.
probably build houses, and everybody has a story. But to me, it's like people's story don't just matter in tragedy, and that's why, like, I know that I may come across a certain way to some journalists, but the truth is, I believe everybody's story matters because I just have a pet peeve of mine is just seeing people come to the top off of tragedy. Like that's just like
Mm-hmm.
it's like I just like to me it's like we can celebrate people more than just in death. We can
Yeah.
celebrate them in life, and I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people may not understand that. But from working in the funeral business and you're sitting through these funerals and you hearing so much about these people, it's like you know it's like man, it's like okay, why can't we celebrate people while they're here? Why can't we celebrate people while they're living? Like why do we just always hear about people in tragedy? And it's to me it's that's a whole nother area of expertise. But to me,
Mm-hmm.
I tend to not be impressed by the narrative because I think that everybody is more than a tragedy story.
Yeah.
I think that people have purpose that the things we've been through in life, the bad things, the good things. Like it's more to life than just tragedy. And so that's why I press so hard to share my messages because like celebrate people while they're here, man.
Yeah.
That's more important than anything.
I love that. And I like the fact that, you know what I'm saying, that's your one of your callings to highlight people's life while they're still here, not when they pass, and to change the narrative of, because people, for the most part, you know what I'm saying, I like to say that, sometimes people act like sheep and they're conditioned to, liking certain things. And then, you have to break the mold and you have to be consistent with it too. So you're a message aligning with someone like me with a platform. Our purposes, you know what I'm saying, are actually or no, actually parallel with one another. You want to shine light on people's life. I want to shine the story and build the platform to where people can be heard. And the bigger I build the platform, the higher it can be amplified. So I love that. I know that, and we'll get into your filmmaking here in a moment. You're a creative person. I want to understand a little bit better. What is a visual poem?
So a visual poem is basically where you take a poem and you just put visual effects to it.
Hmm.
And so me, I found out I was a poet in high school. My teacher, Miss
Okay.
Julian, she made us write a poem. Miss Julian, man, I love Miss Julian. She was one of my favorite teachers too, man.
Hmm.
And I remember she had us write a poem, and my poem was so good that the class thought I plagiarized. But no, it was called The Weight of the World. And man, and I actually came up with that poem because I remember I think we were in Minnesota, and that was a pastor, Bishop Noel Jones.
Hmm.
He was preaching, and he said
Yeah.
something about the weight of the world, and I had that thought, and so I had the thought of the weight of the world, and I turned it into a poem.
Hmm.
And so when I wrote it, man, it was like they were like, "Man, you plagiarized that poem." But it
Hmm.
wasn't just my poem. Like it was a gentleman by the name of Anthony West. This is how
Hmm.
crazy I remember. He wrote a poem about riding a bus, and it
Hmm.
was so deep. Like I know he might not have thought much of it, but man, I actually liked his poem better than mine, to be honest with you. But
Hmm.
I found that I was a poet, and so I started my own web series.
Hmm.
And what ended up happening was like, you know what? I like poetry. So why not just take poetry and just put it in your films? Because poetry is a good way to express yourself, a good way to be an artist. And so
Hmm.
visual poetry is just pretty much you taking a poem and just putting imagery with it. And I got to thank my teacher John Otterbarker from film school because he showed us a
Hmm.
visual poem about eyes. And when I saw that, I fell in love. I'm like, you know what? That's what I want to do.
Hmm.
Forget all that just making narrative films. I want to make poetry and
Hmm.
put imagery to it.
How has the community and you putting yourself out there as a filmmaker and including, you know what I'm saying, visual poems, how has the audience received it, the community? Are they receptive to it? Are they a little hesitant of it? What's been your experience?
I think a little bit of both. I think for the most part, some people that have seen my work, they like, man, I like your work and stuff like that. And you
Hmm.
probably should put it on YouTube, way like I'm on Vimeo, but they like put it on
Hmm.
YouTube, you'll get more eyes. But the truth be told is like some people understand it, some people don't. I know some people that know me when they watch it, they're like, what is this?
Hmm.
But to me, as an artist,
Hmm.
I put it like this, like I'm not just a filmmaker or a writer or a director, like I'm an
Hmm.
artist. And being an artist entails many things. Like I said, God is the first artist. And why does a hyena look different from a wild dog? Why does a
Hmm.
tiger look different from a lion? That's because
Hmm.
as an artist, that's the way he wanted to design everything. So to
Hmm.
me, I look at it as an artist. An artist, you just express yourself. And there's many ways to express yourself. Like, and I was just watching Eddie Murphy documentary, and I like what he said. He said he don't consider himself an actor. He
Hmm.
consider himself an artist.
Hmm.
And so I really like that because as an artist, you just express your work and you do
Hmm.
it in a way that you like to because I think that we live in this world that everything is so commercialized where when something is
Hmm.
commercialized it has value, but I think what we value to me is actually devalue. That's a
Hmm.
whole nother lesson as well too. But
Yeah.
because if people were just truly able to just be a pure artist,
Hmm.
Hollywood would look so much different, you
It
know.
would.
it would look like to me. I always tell people that sometimes commercializing things doesn't make it more valuable. It just it just makes it more acceptable to the conditions that people been conditioned to. But
Yeah.
art is a beautiful. It's so much things you can do with art. It's like it's so
Hmm.
I embrace myself just as an artist, and
Hmm.
I don't try to pattern myself after anybody. Like I truly try to just be an
Hmm.
artist. I don't try to make the type of movies that other people have made. Or you can draw
Hmm.
inspiration from people, but I make the type of things that I like.
Yeah. How do you balance being a creative and a business person? Because a lot of people can't, when they have the talent for both and they pursue both, a lot of people cannot, or not everybody has the talent for both. They either have the talent for one or the other. How do you balance the two? Because that is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, and that's true. But you know what? I think me working in a funeral business and seeing it from a business,
Hmm.
it kind of also helped me in being an artist because when I was in film school, they would,
Hmm.
we had projects where we didn't have to, we did projects where we worked with actors and it was a student film. And because it was a student film, you didn't have to pay everybody, but I chose to pay everybody.
Hmm.
And the reason why I chose to do that is because even though I was in school, it's like, you know what? No, if I'm going to treat this as a business, because a lot of times you're right, we know about the show part, but there's a business part to show
Hmm.
business, and I have to understand that this person might have had to take out work, or maybe they got bills they got to pay. And so I don't ever want an artist to come to me. Don't get me wrong, like I got my best friend Eugene. Eugene don't charge me nothing. Every now and then I still give him a little something, but he like I just want to help my brother out. But I
Hmm.
try to make sure that I compensate artists for helping me because you never know what a person's going through. They got bills and stuff too. Like I said, I've been through a lot, even working in the funeral business. So
Hmm.
I always want to make sure that I respect people's time and compensate them because that's important. Like I don't ever want to be said, I work with this brother, he ain't paid. My friend Tammy,
Hmm.
she's a professional actress. She helped me with a project. She didn't charge me anything.
Hmm.
I appreciate that, but at the same time, I think that it's important to compensate people because you never know because there's a lot of people out here who act and not because see people looking at the big actors a lot of times and not
Hmm.
realizing that it's a lot of big actors who were in big budget films and they were in the film but they didn't hardly make no money.
Hmm. Yeah,
And so
I'm not trying to cut you out, but there was Terrence Howard who said that him playing in Hustle and Flow, he only received 12,000. That came out of his mouth. Even
yeah.
though Lucas said that when he was asked a question about his pay, he said he received plenty of money. So, I'm like, you take from that what you want. But then also going back to your point as far as paying people, I don't know if you've been seeing the controversy of, 50 Cent with the Puff documentary and how that footage was obtained. Because Puff had a videographer follow him around prior to him being locked up for those 2 weeks or whatever. Um, and the rumor is that the videographer did not get paid.
Oh
So
wow.
that's how they were able to acquire that particular set of footage. Of course, they went and got other footage and filmed people because it is a documentary. And I think that that particular documentary is actually a good documentary as far as the way it was shot.
Yeah,
And
I
I
watched
watched
it
all
yesterday.
4 episodes, and I came away from it as they were, yes, 50 Cent executive produced it, but he allowed Alexandria to direct it in a manner to where I didn't see a lot of 50 Cent's influence on it. How he could have done because he is executive producing it. What I saw was a lot of information being presented, and you come up with your own conclusion
Yeah,
as a viewer. But
yeah,
the way it was shot, though, I was like, oh, okay. To me,
yeah.
I haven't seen that many documentaries here lately that made me tune in and just want to watch it. Because I watched, like I said, all 4 episodes back to back to back to back. I had a
Wow.
4 hour gap, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" After the first one, I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I got to keep watching this."
You know
Um,
what?
Mm-hmm.
I watched the first one. I literally just watched the first episode. And see me,
Mm-hmm.
I watched it with no judgment. I see me, I'm a type of person that I watch things to learn from it. Like I'm not trying to
Mm-hmm.
criticize nobody. They,
Mm-hmm.
everybody have their own things to deal with. But it was a pretty, it was nicely shot and everything. And like to me, I
Mm-hmm.
watch documentaries to learn from it because
Mm-hmm.
to me, like that's what it is. Like as a filmmaker, I love watching things because one thing about me, I watch random movies. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
even if it's like a movie that I don't know anything about. Like a lot of times, sometimes I just watch it to look at the shots and look at the acting, and
Mm-hmm.
I just love cinema, man. It's that's just who I am.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that because I do the same thing. So podcasting video style opened me up to shooting like content and stuff. And not just shooting my own episodes, but doing other stuff for other people. And this past summer, I got the opportunity to shoot like a reality show with
Oh, nice.
one camera, a Canon Rebel, what is it, EOS T8i,
Oh, that's a
and
nice one.
yeah, with the kit with the lens that came with it.
That's
Um,
what's up.
yeah, and in doing that, I learned a lot of stuff because I was watching reality TV, trying to put that together and see how they formatted that, doing the whole green screen and monologue stuff, getting a lot of B-roll footage, putting it all together. I've edited 5 episodes so far, and she's dropping them on Patreon. I did her trailer for her, and people love the trailer.
Oh
To
man, that's
where
nice.
for 3 weeks straight, she tagged me on Instagram and invited me as a collaborator. I kept seeing comments after comments after comments, like, "Oh man, I want to watch this." And that to me was so fulfilling because I knew that, you know what I'm saying, even though this was the first time project for me, I approached it differently and I put my
Yeah.
heart into it. Now, of course, I see where I could do stuff. You know how it gets when you film stuff. After you do something, you go back, you start over analyzing. But you
Oh,
know what?
you're
I
like,
could do better on
oh,
this.
it
I
can
could
be
do better on
painful
this.
sometimes,
Uh-huh.
can't it?
Yes, it is. But we have to, and I've learned this too when I used to make music as an artist and you first start recording music. You get to the point to where you have to remove yourself of judging yourself so harshly because I believe perfectionism gets in the way of progress every single time. There's no way we're going to be perfect and present anything that's perfect because we are not perfect in ourselves. We're
Absolutely.
not robots. So there's no way
Absolutely.
that we can create something and just be perfect with it.
Yeah,
There's
it
supposed to be
takes
imperfections.
it takes time and it's all about learning because I always tell people my films are not perfect, but they're mine, and
Hmm.
I don't regret putting any of my work out because I know that at that time I gave it my best. And don't
Hmm.
get me wrong, because like sometimes things don't always pan out as planned, but
Hmm.
you have to give it a shot and just keep perfecting it. That's
Yeah.
all you can do because again, like you said, we're not robots. We're
No.
made in the image of God Almighty, and
Hmm.
that's an honor because we're not robots. We can feel, we can think, we can learn, we
Hmm.
can grow.
Yeah.
We don't have to have people program information into us. We put the information into things to be programmed.
Hmm.
I always tell people that AI, like, because I think a lot of people forget, although we still have artificial intelligence,
Hmm.
don't think that humanity it's always gonna be somebody controlling AI,
Hmm.
whether we realize that or not. We
Yeah.
ain't that crazy,
Hmm.
maybe not everybody is gonna
Hmm.
be able to control it, but you better believe that like the Wizard of Oz, there's gonna be a man
Hmm.
behind the curtain.
Exactly. Yeah, there always is because one, like you said, I don't think AI, you know what I'm saying? I had this conversation with a recording artist out in Texas and I got to do her interview and put it out. But we were talking about AI and how her perspective and we were talking about how like, AI doesn't really have a soul. AI does not cannot convey emotions. So regardless of how sonically something might sound or how AI may be able to put stuff together, because AI is then also filmmaking and putting together concept projects and stuff like that. There's just a thing about humans connecting with one another and being able to draw off of experiences. And I would relate this to like comedy, right? A comedian's job when they do a stand-up comedy is to get on the stage, tell jokes to a lot of strangers, and to relay that type of experience to where everyone will understand, even though all of them are strangers among one another. That's being human. I'm like,
Yeah,
we all go through a lot of different things in life. We might go through, something similar, but a little different at the same time. But it's the familiarity with that
absolutely.
connects us together to where we can take in that information, see it from our perspective, and laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, AI can't do that.
Yeah, and again, that's why I always say AI is nothing but information that people put.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like a lot of people like, all the information that AI gives you is information that somebody
Mm-hmm.
programmed and put it there. So
Mm-hmm.
we give it its information. So I always tell people that the best creation is
Mm-hmm.
the creation that God made, and that's you and I, humanity, human beings, even though we can be something else at times, but I
Mm-hmm.
just hope that we learn to continue to grow and appreciate that and not to and I always say like, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what, money is one thing, but I just hope that we don't lose our love and compassion for humanity because people is what make the world go round.
Yeah, people do make the world go round. So I know where you've mentioned that you're in the Chicago area, but you have the aspirations to go to LA because you feel that that is the best opportunity for you. How close are you getting to move to LA?
2026, God willing. And a lot of people may not realize that, but it's not necessarily for filmmaking. It's for
Mm-hmm.
some other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm trying to set up is actually eventually I'll still be living here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been speaking to quite a few funeral homes in California, and a few of them they were like ready to just bring me on board right away. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily rushing into anything, but I'm working on a few things. But to me, first of all, the one reason is that I'm trying to get away from winter.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. Like, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I'm born and raised in Chicago. Look,
Mm-hmm.
I love Chicago. I love my family. It's nice to be amongst family, but I'm just
Yeah.
not a big fan of the winter time. But
Yeah.
secondly, I'm one of those people that just believe that you have to go with how the Holy Spirit leads you,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have to go with how God leads you. Because to be honest with you, it's a big world out here, and a lot of times, because again, a lot of people always like, you're just going down there to try. No, no, it ain't. Anybody that really know me know that ain't. Because to be honest with you, nowadays you can get big anywhere. You could
Yeah.
be sitting in a whole nother country and get big, really, because that really doesn't matter thanks to platforms like Instagram, YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. If you got the algorithm on your side, you can make it work anywhere. But
Mm-hmm.
but the truth be told, it's some things that I have a desire to kind of do to hopefully benefit myself and humanity. So
Mm-hmm.
I got some things that I'm trying to work on. And then too, LA is just, or California rather, is just, it's a little more easier to do the things that I'm trying to. And it's not even in the film industry. So
Mm-hmm.
it's more so related to the funeral business that I'm trying to work
Mm-hmm.
out. But I do hold a license right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a licensed intern in Illinois, so I've been finishing up my internship. And in California, I'm certified as an arranger, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on becoming a fully licensed funeral director in the state of California as well. So
Okay.
I should be licensed there soon, hopefully, God willing. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man. So I'm just, getting some things done, just
Mm-hmm.
taking life one day at a time, man. Just having fun, man.
Yeah, that's how you can do it. And the fact that you're having fun while you're doing it is amazing. So let's say you go out there. Um, do you see yourself participating in the funeral home business for, years to come, or what do you see your life transpiring into or turning into?
Well, so honestly, I think as long as God bless me to live, I'm always serve in the funeral business because
Mm-hmm.
that's just something that I can't get away. I tried to get out of it at one point in time. Every time I tried to, something would happen to remind me of why I got into it. Don't get me wrong, I've had many ups and downs with it in
Mm-hmm.
that industry as well because it's sometimes I know that quite a few of my colleagues and classmates have walked away from it because of pay. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people might be shocked by that, but to me, you have to really love what you do. And to me, nowadays, the world is different. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when our parents were younger, you can do one thing and just be, but nowadays you got to have your
Hmm.
head in some of everything now
Yeah.
because the cost of living is so high. Like that's why I like, why would you go to LA? But like I tell people, look, you can make it anywhere if you really
Hmm.
want to. If God leads you to go,
Hmm.
by the grace of God, He will be your provider. He will sustain you. He'll make a way. Cause like I said, Illinois ain't no joke either.
Hmm.
But nowadays the cost of living is pretty much high everywhere. So you just have to budget your money right, and sometimes you have to have discipline. Like that's one thing that we don't talk about. Like, but you got to have financial discipline. Like if you got financial discipline and you don't, overly splurge and things of that nature, you can make
Hmm.
it work anyway. And like I said, don't get me wrong now, because like I've always been a bit of a hustler by right, and I know a lot of people don't understand it, because even like a lot of people told me like, when you appear on some of these podcasts, do you get paid in this? And I tell people, you know what? Everything is not always about money.
Hmm.
Sometimes some things is just about building relationships,
Hmm.
because and that's the thing that people really don't see. And I think to your point about AI, that's where I think that us as people, we have to be so careful, because again, of course AI can do a lot of things, but once people start losing that connection, that's bad. You know,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, human beings, sometimes we could be something else at times,
Hmm.
but we have to realize that everything is connected, because no artist, no business, I don't care if it's Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's or,
Hmm.
any independent business or whatever, it wouldn't be what it is if the people then pour into it.
Yeah.
And so no business is greater than the people. And I
Yeah.
think that once we realize that, I mean, I don't think people really realize how much power they really have. That, don't get me wrong, there are dynasties and people in this world that got
Hmm.
more money and things of that nature. But if people wouldn't put money into certain things,
Hmm.
nothing
Yeah.
would thrive.
Exactly. It wouldn't. It wouldn't. It wouldn't.
It wouldn't thrive.
It wouldn't. And I'm like, you're right with that. The people as a collective have way more power than what they think, because they're always thinking about being individual instead of like being a collective at some point. And I tell people all the time, we're social creatures and no one wants to be alone and all that. We don't go through life alone. We have
Absolutely.
many people in our lives at various intersections and points, and we really don't make decisions alone either. We
Absolutely.
have people that we talk to, and based off how we value that person or persons, that helps with the decision making process.
Absolutely. Because I
So,
know. And you
mhm,
and you're right about that, because no man is an island. Like everybody works together, and like I said, I just been having a blast, man. Like I've been blessed. Like lately, I've had the privilege of working on Chicago PD, and I just
mhm,
did Chicago, man. I did Chicago PD about 3 times now. I did med once,
mhm,
but it was kind of nice getting a chance to like be on set, filming for 3 days over at Center Space and things of that nature. And to your point about people, when you go there and you see the film crews working together, man, it's nice seeing people, man. Like I
mhm,
said, I'm not against progress and things of that nature, but again, I think that we have to be careful as people to not neglect our responsibility, because we're here to have an experience. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? And God has allowed us to live in this world that He created. And don't get me wrong, it's some things that happen in the world that's not pretty, but life is what we make it. And to
mhm.
me, it's just we got to change our mindset about a lot of things, man. Just
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Well, wait, let everybody know how can they get in contact with you if they want to, check out any films, if they want to pick your brain, if they want to support any of those things. How would you want them to be directed?
well, if you ever want to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram, Wade Jedi 99 on Instagram. You can reach me on Facebook, Wade Simmons. Feel free, I'm a chatterbox. If you want to check out my film work, if you want to, you can find me on Vimeo, Wade Filmmaker 777 on Vimeo. So feel free to check me out if you like.
That's what's up. Well, Wade, I appreciate you coming on the platform, telling your story and your perspective. I'm loving it. A very overall fantastic person, and I love the way that you look at life and humanity and how you keep this centered morality that you have about yourself. So I wish you the much success in your endeavors and what you want to do, and love to like follow up. Like okay, you out in L.A. And you've been out there in a while, so be able to talk about your experiences there and what you got going on and stuff like that. And for everybody, supporting the platform, continue to do so. Banked Out underscore radio underscore show on Instagram, Banked Out Radio Show on Facebook. And you can also hear this podcast across all platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Wade, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime, my brother. You keep up the good work on your end as well. I'm proud of you.
I appreciate that.